can begin. So it's that time again to talk about our 2025, sorry, I'm getting ready, 2025 reading goals. I've been thinking a lot about this because although I haven't been posting on YouTube really ever, I was a book blogger and I was doing Bookstagram for a while. So even though I stopped creating content, got gold in here, there was always a goal every year that I would set for myself. And I have been reading since I can remember, since like the earliest books I can remember is like Judy Blume, Animorphs, Amber Brown is not a crayon. We all know Amber Brown is a perfect name for a crayon. Those are the earliest books I can remember reading. And then that turned into basically Harry Potter. And it was Harry Potter for a long time in my life until the series ended, and then I went into a very long book slump because I felt that nothing could reach the level of literacy that Harry Potter gave me. And for people that have not read Harry Potter, or for those that didn't live through the Harry Potter era, it's really hard to understand that because you may be looking at it from the lens of, oh, that's such a millennial thing to say, or you may be looking at it the lens of, well, we've canceled J.K. Rowling. And a point that I want to really make with that is that when those books came out, we have to remind ourselves that there wasn't much more entertainment outside of going outside, riding your bike. Reading was something that more people did, and we didn't have as much stimulation. So when that occurred, I kind of gave up on reading and felt like no one could obtain that level of just imagination and just perfect writing. And I think I've reread these books and I think they hold up. And I think they hold up through test of time. And then I discovered Game of Thrones and I'm like, okay, this is good writing. So I've been still trying to figure out what does that mean for me as a reader. What do I like? What don't I like? What am I looking for? When I look at my home library, what does it say about me? What kind of reader am I? I've always been clear that I do like good literature. I think I've come up with a conclusion that I think I'm a pretentious reader. I really do. And I don't think that the popular books are up to par to what I consider good writing to be. And everyone has different goals in their reading journey. Some people's goals are to just said that they've read a lot of books, and there's nothing wrong with that. However, I've always been someone that wanted to be able to speak upon books that are not just popular amongst people my age, but timeless pieces. And I was the believer that, well, classics, I'm not a classics girl. I'm not going to pretend that I am, because I'm just not a classic girl. So I'm not going to sit there and waste my time with classics, because why? Then I realized that one of my favorite books of all time is actually considered a classic. And that is Rebecca by Daphne. Let me get it real quick. Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier. This is one of my favorite books of all time. And I asked myself, what makes this one of my favorite books? One, the subject matter. I think the subject is a little bit too close to my life. And two, it's the way that it is written. I put myself in the shoes of the author. This book was written in 1938. This is an era before entertainment, before before, I don't even know, I don't think the TV was out, and if it was, not everyone had them in their home. This is an era where anything that happened, people kind of felt it to the max, versus now where everything is just being thrown at us at all times, and we're always overly stimulated. I have noticed even within myself that a lot of the habits that I have taken from being a book blogger kind of fell into that category of just kind of looking for the next best thing and not really simmering in the books that I read. So what I love so much about Rebecca is that there are so many details, is that it is very creepy, because you also think about the time that it was written. There wasn't much to go off of it other than your imagination. And so that brings me to my realization I do want to dissect the book. I do want to simmer in the ideas. I do want to put myself into the author's shoes. And I do not read just to say that I have read. I do not read just because a book is popular. I have attempted time and time again. I'll give you another example. Fourth Wing is a book that I thought was gonna knock my socks off because everyone was talking about it. It was of great length. It was just a book that people seemed to really enjoy. And when I picked it up, there was too many potholes for me. There was too many unanswered questions that maybe they would have been answered later on in another book, but it's not done in a way that inspires me to go find out why certain things happen, because it was not written in a way that I felt was well written. And who am I to say what is well written or what is not well written? But in my humble opinion, I need a little more depth, especially when it comes to my fantasies, because I'm coming from where I believe Harry Potter and Tolkien, and I love Dune. I'm coming from Game of Thrones, and I'm currently in the second book of the Stormlight Archive. And even then, sometimes Brandon Sanderson kind of fails the mark for me when it comes to in depth. So my 2025 reading goals really comes down to this. What are the books that I truly want to immerse myself and truly want to say that I have read in its entirety and I have enjoyed? And those books happen to be some rereads. I want to reread Rebecca. I want to read War and Peace. I want to read Dumas's Count of Monte Cristo. I still want to set a goal for myself. I want to at least read 20 books, but I don't want to disappoint myself and say if I don't read these 20 books, I have to suddenly speed read a whole bunch of books just to meet that goal. I don't want to just read to say that I read. I want to read books that when I am amongst other peers that also read or have read, that I could sound well versed and I can lose myself into these books and become the reader that these authors were talking to. These books were intended for an audience that sat down, took their time, and read and took in every sentence that they wrote down on the piece of paper. Now, with that being said, my goals for 2025 are not just to read classics. I also want to read at least 3 Stephen King books. I think we live in an era where I feel very honored that there are still living legends like Stephen King, not only just still writing, but he's alive, he is here, and a lot of his book catalog spans decades, and I think that is just an awesome time to live through. I want to get through the Stormlight Archive books because, again, I feel that we are living in an era where we have another living legend, which is Brandon Sanderson in fantasy. And one might argue, and I can agree to that maybe he doesn't have the greatest prose, and a lot of his situations in his book are a little too contrived and a little too convenient. However, they're still of high quality, and the magic system that he creates is it just blows my mind that he is able. I think the biggest thing with Brandon Sanderson is not the writing, not even the story, but it is how he can create this magic system that makes sense, that he doesn't tell you everything right away. As a reader, you kind of have to be patient and keep on reading and keep on going to kind of put the pieces together. And I love that type of reading. I love difficult books. I don't necessarily like books that don't make sense, so don't confuse the two because that's a video for another day. However, his books are a journey, and I feel like I spend so much time with these characters that for a long time they become part of my life, and I love that. I realize that I do love that. I'm no longer, for 2025, going to have a never-ending TBR. I have a home library. I have not read all the books that I own, nor are my goals to read my whole physical TBR, because between my physical TBR and my digital TBR, plus the new releases coming, plus probably my mood or interest may change in the near future, I have no intentions of actually reading every book in my home library. I am a mood reader, and I have accepted that. So I read books that I believe, or I buy books that I believe I will want to read some point in my lifetime. And I revisit these books every day. I look at my shelves and I ask myself, will I still want to read that? Do I really, really want to read that? And if the answer is yes, I keep it because I shop my library. So for 2025, TBRs are not going to be a thing, and I'm going to be okay with it. My next reading goal for 2025 is to create videos where I talk about the books that I read. I think that one of the reasons why I'm opening up this channel or entering back into the book blogging world is because I do miss the community that comes with reading. Reading is such a private matter. It is such a intimate moment between you and the pages that for someone else to be able to speak upon that or talk to you about it, it's really exciting because there's not so many of us that we bump into on a day-to-day basis. Another 2025 goal of mine is that I will set a Goodreads goal of 20 books next year or the following year. However, I'm not gonna like hold that number like it's law. I'm going to shoot for that, and I think that 20 books in a year is actually a great number to be able to immerse oneself in a book that is a little bit less than a book and a half a month or somewhere along those lines, and I think that's a very doable goal. For 2025, I will not be saying that I will have a book ban. I don't really believe in book bans. You know, unless you have like an actual shopping addiction, a shopping problem, I don't see how book bans really help anyone outside of just giving you this anxiety because you want to go buy a book and you're not allowed to because you've given yourself a ban. Just ask yourself, why did you reach a point where you even have to say that you need to do a book ban? You know, like, be realistic with where you stand when it comes to your book buying habits. For 2025, I also want to still attempt to do reading sprints. I really want to see, what do I retain if I do read for 24 hours? What do I get out of a 24-hour readathon? I have done it once, I believe, in the past. I don't remember much about it, but I am interested in seeing what these sprints are all about, and does it make me feel good? Will I enjoy it? Is it something that I would want to do maybe once or twice a year? Not just as a challenge to just say that I did it, but does that open up another part of my brain? Does that increase my focusing power? I don't know. I would like to find out. Going back to like the 2025 goals, I'm no longer going to be influenced by heavy popular books. And here's why. Not because I feel like I'm better than anyone else or that I get FOMO. Trust me, I get FOMO. But it's just that I realize that my taste is just not the most popular taste either. I like books that are a little more polarizing or books that are a little more difficult to understand. And this doesn't mean that I just feel like I'm smarter than anyone else, because like I said, everyone's reading goals and intentions are different. Some people read just to escape, and you could be a darn rocket scientist and still want to read smut. Like, that is absolutely perfectly fine. Doesn't make you any less of a reader. Now, does it make you well read? That's up for debate. I'm still learning how to talk on this platform, because when I was on Bookstagram before, like, we weren't really talking to a camera as much as we were just reviewing books and putting them on our platform and making really nice pictures and things like that. I mean, trust me, that took time in of itself. This is definitely a different approach to talking about books that I think I will enjoy, because I'm not gonna hold myself to, I cannot hold myself to any schedule. These YouTubers, booktubers that are able year after year after year to keep a consistent schedule, my hat's off to you. I don't think I'm ever even consistent enough with like my hygiene like that. Like, kudos to you guys. So I'm not gonna really hold myself to any type of a schedule, but at the end of the day, we all want views. We all want people to come and watch us and discuss. And you know, I will have a haul here and there, but I truly want to have a platform where if I have a discussion with 10 people, like, that's fine with me. I'm so okay with that for this platform, because I just want an outlet for me to speak upon my reading opinions. You know, if I don't like a book or I don't like a character, I don't want to be, you know, chastised for that. Or if I separate the artist from the art, I don't want to go into no controversy, because there are some artists out there, or, you know, authors that, man, I still like their work, so it's kind of hard to bash the words on paper versus their action as a human. And, you know, honestly, it's a little hypocritical when the book community like attacks an author so bad, but yet would sit there and not research every single producer or actor or writer in a movie. It's like, come on, you're being so ridiculous. And that might sound controversial, but whatever. Those are my 2025 reading goals. It's a little bit mixed into also like what I'm gonna do with this channel. So if you guys made it this far, give me your 2025 reading goals below. I hope you enjoyed my look.